Would you like to receive a gift? What feeling just went through you? Now, what if I told you that the gift is feedback? Did your feeling change? That's what we tell our clients. Feedback is a gift. You only get it a few times in your professional career, so receive it openly and constructively. But that's not exactly how it feels. And I'd like that to change. Think about what it is like for you to give somebody feedback. Have you been in that place to offer feedback? Or you've interviewed a number of colleagues and you're going to share it with your client and you're in that in-between space. Think, too, of a time when you've received feedback. And what was that like for you? Now, imagine what it would be like if your colleagues told you what they love about you, what they think are your greatest gifts and your greatest talents. And they go even further and they tell you what they think you can do to be even more effective, what to do rather than what not to do. And they take it one step further and they say that they'll be there with you through that process to support you as that goes along. Now, how would it feel to receive that sort of feedback? How would it feel as a coach to offer that to your clients? Over the last 5 years, I've been working to refine my approach to doing narrative 360s. And I've shared it with a number of coaches here. Jen Ostrich, who is here as well, has been working with me over the last 3 years, and we compare notes and work on this. And it's really based in two core concepts. One is about positive psychology, the scientific study of what's right with individuals, organizations, and communities. And the other is looking at social systems. Relationships are critical to our ability to change and to grow. As Marshall Goldsmith found in his research, there's one factor critical to our ability to maintain a change as a client, and that is the ongoing engagement and involvement of the people around us. So with positive psychology, what I utilize are strengths, looking at strengths, also appreciative inquiry, solution-focused coaching, and looking for desired outcomes. With the social system, I try to understand what is it like to be my client and put myself in their shoes. And traditionally, you do that through a 360, but unfortunately, people look forward to a 360 like they do a performance review these days. So how do we shift that to be positive? What I do is I interview 6, 8, or 10 individuals around my client with the intent of understanding them. What is their background? What are their goals? What are they trying to achieve? What is success for them? And then what do they need from my client to help them reach their goals? Then we shift to the client to try to understand what is it that you love about them? What are their greatest talents and gifts from your perspective? And if they could be a little bit more effective, what might that look like? And what is one small step that they could take to become that person? Now, we know with social support, we see slopes as less steep and we feel burdens to be less heavy. This drawing is an illustration of research that shows that if you have somebody standing next to you, or if you're even thinking about somebody that is supportive of you, you will physically see a hill or slope in front of you as being less steep. That's what we can offer our clients in bringing a support system around them. I use appreciative inquiry to try to understand when have you been at your best with my client in the past? What did it look like? What made it possible? And how can we make it possible more frequently in the future? And then I ask each person I interview to identify just one thing that they're willing to do differently to support my client going forward. That might be as simple as recognizing and reinforcing new behaviors. Because if nobody is watching, nobody is noticing, it's easy for our clients' behaviors to fade. So does anybody know who this drawing is of? Yeah. City Slickers, Jack Palance. One thing. So at the close of the interviews, my client will have 6, 8, 10, or 12 allies around them, all willing to do at least one thing differently, all pulling for my client. Now, social network analysis is an interesting field of study. It looks at how people are connected within human systems, organizations, communities, schools, things like that. And within that field of research, there's one question that is highly predictive of future leadership and performance, and that is, who do you go to for information? Information holders are very powerful, very important in organizations. They tend to rise quickly and they perform well. There's another question that's 4 times as predictive of future leadership and performance, and that is, how does this person impact your level of energy? Do they raise your energy or do they zap your energy? And what specifically do they do that raises or zaps your energy? We all have those sorts of behaviors, and I want my client to know. Now, I don't focus on the zapping. Why? Because it's almost impossible to do less of a bad behavior. You need to dig further as the interviewer to try to understand, what do you want more of? So for my client Troy, he was always told that he talks too much, that he dominates. And that's useless feedback. So we have to dig further and try to understand, what do you want more of? And it's these sorts of skills. So if Troy is doing more active listening, paraphrasing, true curiosity, he's naturally going to do more of that. He's going to do less dominating. And how this plays out in the human system is that at the executive team meetings, Troy would get really loud, and everybody else on the team would literally turn away and start looking at their PDAs at an executive team meeting, except for one person who turned back and would say, Troy, what do you need from us? And that would change the conversation. Now, that person, the VP of HR, that was the one thing she had committed to doing. Knowing the tune out, she would turn back. So that's why it's important that this is not just a process that ends with an interview. The person is going to be involved over the entire engagement. And that's why it's not confidential. I challenge that notion of confidentiality. Instead, people are going to be engaged and part of the process of change, from the interview to identifying their one thing, to offering reinforcement, and to providing feedback. So, as coaches, it's important to understand that a 360 is not just about the individual client. It is about creating an environment that is conducive to deeper, lasting change that happens faster with more dialogue, disclosure, and depth. All are stakeholders in each other's success, and that's the shift positive. Thank you.